Yes, Satya.
Good afternoon. In immense gratitude, I welcome all who are present here. I wholeheartedly welcome our chairman and managing trustee, Thiru M.A.K. Balakrishnan, and the directors and trustee, Mr. K.B.K. Rajmohan, Mr. K.B. Arun, and Mr. K.B. Krish Anand. Next, with love and joy, I would like to welcome our Dean Madam, Dr. R. Revati, and Principal Madam, Dr. R. Geeta Rani, to this program. I'm very glad to welcome our dear chief guest, Dr. Shobana Karthikeyan, who is here to explain us about gender and economic development. I hope this session will be a great chance for us to have some knowledge about economics. Last but not least, I welcome all the staff members and students. Welcome all.
Thank you, Akshaya. Uh, Ma'am, you can start, ma'am.
A very good afternoon to each one of you present here. The chairman and trustees, respected trustees of the college, Madam Dr. R. Geeta Rani, Principal, Sri Krishnaswamy College for Women, Madam Dr. R. Revati, the Dean, Madam Dr. Angelina Cuba, Head and Organizing Secretary of this program, Madam Ramya, who was helping me with the technical issues. Thank you very much. And to all my dear student friends. It's a matter of great privilege that I'm here today and I'm being able to address you on this topic. So first, I would like to tell you that this is going to be a non-technical, non-technical understanding that I would like to give you about gender and economics. As students of economics, it is usually we consider things to be gender neutral. So be it any outcome, be it education or anything, or any of the policies that the government gives us, we assume that they are gender neutral, right? But that's not the case. So if we just take a minute, not a minute, typically maybe 40 minutes, and understand how gender as a typical lenses affects the entire world that we live in, yeah? So that is going to be the objective of this session that I have planned out. I will just share my screen so that it becomes easy. Just give me a second. Okay. So here we are talking about gender and development. Before I start off, I have a small question for you. Okay. I will show you the description of two people and let us see if you're able to guess who this person is, right? So it's a small task for you, just to keep you, guessing and just to involve you, right? So this person one, this powerful figure is an Ivy League trained lawyer, often referred to as the enforcer, because this person can get the job done. This person is principled, candid, and opinionated. This person was the mentor to one of the presidents of the United States of America, right? So I assume now that you kind of have an idea of who this person is, right? So we will move on to number two. Person number two, this parent of two children put the spouse's career first, worked at a non-profit organization training leaders, and is said to be very protective of family. This person has a personal trainer and a stylist. Of course, I'm aware that this medium does not enable us to interact, but by now, if you're even remotely thinking, did you have any rough guesses as to who these two people are? At least, a couple of names. Most of them, at least this description is it looks American, isn't it? It looks American. And we are talking about two different people. Who these people would probably be. So it will be probably surprising to a few of you that we were talking about Michelle Obama in both the cases. Yeah. So this person is an Ivy League trained lawyer. She's a lawyer from Harvard. And she actually was the person who mentored Barack Obama and who was with him throughout all his campaigns. And she was the bedrock of his entire life, right? Now, but this description is quintessentially male, right? So your mind, so rather, So this looks more like a female description, that she, in fact, she took a break from her career so that she could focus on Barack Obama's career. So this looks more feminine, isn't it? So were you even compelled to think that the first person was male and the second person was female? If this happened to anybody, because this was a question I handed down to a few of my class people, about 95% of them thought that the first person was male and the second one was female, while we were talking about the same person, about absolutely the same individual. So do you ever wonder what leads you to such a thought process? So there is something, isn't it? Something in the way we are trained, we are engineered to think that, so typically we are socially programmed, yeah, to think in a particular way. So this programming did not happen in the last 10 years. It did not happen in the last 50 years. It's been happening over hundreds of years, ever since man as a species evolved, right? So now this leads us. So now we have clearly demarcated that there is something called masculine and there is something called feminine. So this leads us to a whole host of a world of literature by itself, which is on gender. So what exactly is gender? So gender is used to refer to a set of roles, responsibilities, rights, expectations, and obligations that are socially or culturally associated with being male or female. So typically, if our society expects female to behave in a certain way, wear certain clothes, not to raise your volume in a certain way, not to outsmart your male peers in a certain way, all these are something that is put on the society. Therefore, it is a social construct. So, Indian the gender vandade, it came from the society, right? So, gender also includes power relations between men and women, girls and boys. So, this whole thing, if you will see, is not made by nature. It is absolutely a social construct. So, social construct, the society created it for whatever it wanted to do, because job had to be done. There were certain people who had to do things at home, certain people who had to go out and do. So this is typically a socially constructed theme that we are all following. Now, there is a major difference between sex and gender that you ought to be seeing. So when so sex is biological, right? But gender is social. Sex is physical. So how we were created by nature. So for example, only women can breastfeed, men cannot, isn't it? Because they are not equipped with the organs to do the same. So that you're talking about is sex. So it's a biological construction. So you are talking about the physical aspects. You have the hormones, which are different for men and women. So, and you have the secondary sexual characteristics. They are given by nature. Under normal circumstances, they are immutable. Of course, in certain countries, they do go for a sex change operation. They don't go for a gender change operation, mind you, right? So sex is basically something that is given by nature. That is how somebody was created. Yeah. So that part, the physical aspect, is sex. Now, moving on to gender. Gender is a social construct. So people in the society created it. So the environment has a huge bearing on determining your general roles. So it is sociologically and psychologically determined. It is sculpted by the society. It is socially learned. It is changeable. It is culturally specific. Now, this culture specific thing is very important because, for example, if you will see in India, for little children, of course, today things are changing, but generally, girl children also wear green skirts, blue, pattu pavada and all that, isn't it? We are quite used to greens and blues being in our wardrobe. But in America, it's not like, in the West, it's not like that. Certain colors are shunned by women, yeah, and certain colors are shunned by men altogether. And there are certain neutral colors like black and white also. How gender is culture specific is because, another example, in Scotland, you have men wearing skirts also, a typical skirt, the Scottish skirt that men also wear. But if you were to be wearing skirt in the West, in any other country, say maybe the US, then people are going to look at you very differently, right? So gender and gender-related roles, gender-related attitudes, behavior is all sculpted by the society. It is learned and it changes. The context of where gender is placed continues to change. Now, so thus, while sex is permanent and universal, gender construction varies from one society to the other. To put it another way, male and female are sex categories, while masculine and feminine are gender categories. You understand the broad classification? There are a lot of people who confuse these two. They are very, very clearly different constructs. Now, we're talking about sex and gender. So there is a concept called gendering. So in order to reach a certain desirable behavior, right, by the based on what the society expects of us, there is a process that happens, and that process is called gendering or gender socialization. Little by it's all not done in one day. If you will notice, it's not like somebody has made the rules and it is handed down. No, nothing was done in one day. People made the rules, yes, but they have been passionately passed on by generation after generation after generation. And I'm sure you and me will pass it on to the next generation also. But of course, maybe in a different context, because things are changing. Gender as a construct continues to change. Now here, right from infanthood or childhood, boys and girls receive different messages about their behaviors and what is expected of them. Right? If all the time a little baby, a male baby continues to cry, "Yanda, ponnu mari aludukitte irukka," we keep saying, right? Because we think it is only women who have to cry. Or the message goes to the little child that if I'm going to cry, I'm going to be called a girl. So let me not cry. Let me have a bold face or something like that. So if a girl is prone to jumping around and doing lots of, jumping balls and doing certain things or playing with certain types of toys, so she maybe says, "Eppa pathala aambla mari velayattu," right? So we have heard these things. We have heard these words typically being thrown up by our aunts, our grandmothers, our own parents. It happens. But you may be remotely thinking of what relevance this has on economic development. The whole point is there is plenty of evidence, absolutely plenty. That's where we are going to come in. So these messages are communicated to them by peers, society, mass media, today social media, lots of other things. So just give me a second. The messages communicate that certain behaviors are acceptable for boys and not girls, and vice versa. This is the entire process of gender socialization. So right from when you're born, messages keep coming from your religion, from your school, your teachers, your parents, through the social media, through the TV. I mean, just for example, let's once switch on any of these Tamil channels or even Hindi channels in the evening to watch any program. Such stereotyping goes on. Yeah, Saas Bahu is a stereotype. So many stereotype keeps blaring at our faces every single day. All this goes into the diet of every single human being, and it gets imprinted. That is the process of gender socialization. So what does UNICEF say about gender socialization? It is a process by which individuals develop, refine, and learn to do gender through internalizing gender norms and roles as they interact with key agents of socialization, such as their family, your social network, and other institutions. So all these people who are along with you, they keep on bearing the same message, and eventually we grow up thinking that probably, yes, that's the way it ought to be. And we pass it on to the next generation. That's what we do. So gender socialization begins at birth, intensifies during adolescence, and contributes to gender inequalities in education, employment, income, empowerment, and other significant outcomes of well-being. That is where you're able to be, you're going to be bringing your economics in here. Now, internalizing gender norms. Gender norms are there. People keep, saying the same things over and over. So how do you internalize? Or in other words, how do children internalize? In early childhood, parents and caregivers may dress people in a certain way, right? So typically, if it's a small baby girl in the house, yeah, alaga kutti, yeah, that's what we say to convey our love. So if it's going to be a male baby, you say yeah, singa kutti, right? So because a lion is typically the king of the forest, a lion signifies valor, courage, whatever, right? Pride. So that is a male characteristic or a masculine trait that it is associated with. So you attribute that to a male child. So these things are real, absolutely real. So yet you often comment on the appearance of little girls, saying, "Oh, you're so pretty, what a nice dress you have." But you're likely to talk about an activity, a trait of a boy, like you run so fast, wow, you're so strong, you're so intelligent, so on and so forth. So this is how things are internalized right from that particular age. So who are the agents of socialization? Where do we receive these messages from? They are from parents, family, friends, peers, education institutions that we are a part of. Why education institutions, I'm absolutely clear, is because when maybe it's a personal experience which I would want to share. Probably I was in the 5th or the 6th standard. I grew up for some years in Trichy. So at that point, you will, it was a break, and we were talking, we would be entering into another period after the break. So I do not know what was running in my mind. I was a child back then. So I was just, putting this talam on the board, on the desk. And there comes in the teacher. I mean, it was quite common for teachers to come with some kuchi or something. And she comes in with a stick, and the only word she uttered was, "Enna pombala pulla thalam pottukittu," and then my hands turned red, believe me. And constant beating for maybe 5 minutes, I would say 4 to 5 minutes. And all I did was sob my heart out. So that was a very clear message to a 10 or 11-year-old that this is what you ought to be doing and this is what you not ought to be doing. Well, so that's why educational institutions, teachers, your books, media, your own experiences, the circumstances which mold you, your religion that you follow, and everything else put together, the entire composite things that you put together. Yeah. So these are the agents of socialization. Now, here, media has an extremely important role in molding the way in which we have been looking at ourselves and the society around us. If you will, there are a few, ads that I have pulled out, both from mainstream American ads from the 60s and 70s, and also Indian ads from the 70s onwards till the latest ads today. So this is just to tell you how the talk or the thought process on gender was just about 50, 60 years back, and how much we have actually moved. We have moved for the better, how things have changed. So just a few ads. This was a mainstream ad in the Americas in 1960s, 50s and 60s. Yeah. It turns out, one says, it turns out girls are useful after all. Yeah. So, so does it mean that girls are not useful? Not at all. Right. So I'll quickly just skim through these ads so that we can actually go to the economic content as well. So here, mainstream ads, it says, you mean a woman can open it? Basically to say that only a man is strong. So what they are trying to promote is, they are trying to say that it's going to be very easy to unscrew and use it. But look at the usage of words, right? Today, I don't think anybody will dare to do it. Things have changed. Things have moved on, definitely for the better. This one, again, it's Van Heusen, and it says, show her it's a man's world. Look at the authoritative position in which a man is sitting, and the subservient position that the woman is being given. You can't think of releasing an ad like this today, right? So again, another. So the harder the wife works, the cuter she looks. And she is wearing an apron, doing the household work. And the man is suited up. Probably he's stepping out to work, or he stepped out to work, or whatever. And this woman is doing the dusting, and she's got the dusting brush with her, isn't it? So this is a typical stereotype saying that women are relegated to the house and men tend to go out. So Indian ads, moving on to Indian ads of the 70s and 80s. So train her to be an ideal housewife. Buy her an Usha sewing machine. So there is no right or wrong here. It is, you have to only look at it from the perspective of the time period. Okay, just to acknowledge that things, gender concepts, even within the country and even world over, are changing. They're dynamically changing. And now this one, when typically if it's a product about children or anything, you have a woman featuring it in there. Bonvita ambla kalaki koduthalum pasanga kudipanga, right? But that's not what is shown. So typically a mother caring for the child's well-being, so on and so forth. So here you have women, again, typically coming for soap ads and lipstick ads and things like that. And male models, here it's Mithun Chakravarti, who is campaigning for a VCR. Yeah. So just basically some kind of a message, a subtle message that men are better with equipment and women are here, with soaps and lipsticks and other things. Now, again, this has changed over a period of time, where you will say hammam, the same hammam which around the 70s and 80s used to give an ad like this. Today it has changed. I hope you must have been seeing the hammam ads, isn't it? While they talk about the protection, they talk about less violence. Again, they're also selling their soap. This entire campaign of hammam is basically go safe outside. the same product that you're talking about, it has changed the way in which it appeals to people. So basically to say that there is some hope, things are changing. Again, Ariel's this fantastic campaign, which is about a share the load campaign, right? So in one of the things in the bottom left quadrant, you will see that this lady is teaching her son to basically start doing his work, because she gets a call from her daughter, a married daughter, who says she's giving up her work. The mother questions her, saying, "Why are you giving up your work? You're doing so well." And this daughter apparently replies, "No, I'm not getting any support from the husband. He doesn't know to do anything in the household work. He doesn't chip in at all." Then the mom says, "Yeah, how do you say that he won't be getting it?" Only then she casts a glance at the son's room. It's in shambles. Then she realizes that while the entire generation has taught the girls to, basically stand on their own feet, they have forgotten to teach the women, the men, that they have to be chipping in as well. So this Share the Load campaign of Ariel is another fantastic move towards more gender equality. So basically, Ariel says that they're going to remove the stains of gender inequality in the society. So that's their campaign. Eventually, they will want to sell their Ariel. That's a different story. But at least some good message they're giving. Now, all this burden that have been put comes down to 3 roles of women, which are very famously, or rather infamously, called as the triple roles of women. They are the productive role, the reproductive role, and the community role. So productive role typically looks at one point I do realize there's a lot of theory also, but theory at a very, very nominal level. Okay, right. So here you're talking about the productive role, where she actually goes out and her work is counted in the GDP, right? That's one part. So GDP, that's the market work that she does. So I'm a teacher, so somebody pays me salary, right? So it comes in the GDP, it's factored into the GDP. But all the work that I do around the house is not. It just goes off radar. So the productive role is something that the woman helps in producing, be it working in the farm and bringing, and so that the surplus can be sold, or anything that she does to generate income. So income from out of the family. The reproductive role is typically when she has to maintain the family. She has to take care of food, shelter, reproducing, and taking care of future workforce, that is raising her children, raising them with the right moral values, teaching them, sitting with them for homework, right? Everything, all this gets contained into the reproductive role. The third one is the community management role. Is women actually are an extended part of the society. Yeah, so they have to participate in prayers and celebrations and community activities and lots of things. So the women don't have just one boss, they have multiple bosses, they have multiple roles, multiple hats that they don. So typically in a marriage, when it's 2 souls, 2 people coming together, when the man says I do, but the woman has to say I'll do more. You have already put 3 roles on her, so she has to do more, isn't it? So it's a very, very unequal share of load, which you will see in the statistics has a direct bearing on women going out to organized workforce, right? So here we are. So the bulk of a woman's activities are channeled into non-market production. Non-market activities are those primarily undertaken for the purpose of self-consumption, right? For example, a farmer cultivates products for himself, a housewife's work. Many women say that a housewife's work is a thankless job, 24/7, no CL, no medical leave, nothing. They just have to continue on, isn't it? So that work typically is non-market activities. So you have something called non-market production. Non-market production covers the goods and services household members produce for their own consumption by unpaid labor. So these activities are excluded from the macroeconomic aggregate. So it is not a part of national income accounting at all. While it is not a part of national income accounting, it becomes trivial. So as far as national income is concerned, so you aggregate everybody's production and then you formulate your national income accounts, isn't it? So in that area, you're going to be giving most women a big 0 because you don't monetarily value it. But this one is a substantial role that they play because they upkeep human capital. Otherwise, how will the next generation workforce come up, right? So it is their sacrifice typically that enables the next generation to even come out in the first place, to be born in the first place. So their value in that sense is clearly substantial. So this was an interesting news article that I saw on Non-Market Production. So this is from this website called Brightside. This guy, typically two working professionals who got married, and this guy says, and the lady decided to take a temporary break and take care of their daughter. This guy says he can't afford his wife, and the reason is truly touching. Touching or not, this guy makes a lot of economic sense. What he does is he puts a market value on all the tasks that his wife does, and it comes to a whooping $74,000, right? $74,000 is roughly around $6,000 plus every month. And in US terms, typically $6,000 plus is something a reasonable middle-level executive would take home. It's a solid salary, right? So just see how he calculated this one. So he says, I'm very grateful that my wife is even staying back to take care of my daughter. So if I have to pay for that, I cannot be affording my wife at all. So just imagine, this is only to kickstart a thought process saying, look at the amount of work our women folk have been doing for the economy. And there is not a single monetary value added to it. In fact, we make them feel worse about, doing nothing, isn't it? They typically, we say they do nothing, right? But look at the kind of value that they add. We are reaching something called a third-party criterion, where this is a criterion that was put forth by Hill in the year Hill, a researcher in 1979. So typically, if you were to take somebody else, if you were to employ somebody else, how much would you pay for that? So that is your third-party criterion. So cooking, cleaning, any other tasks can be classified as third-party activities, but watching television and sleeping are personal activities which you only have to do. So they are not third-party things, right? So this is a criterion that can be used to understand the value of the female work in households. Okay, so I'm just introducing you to various aspects here. Now we have very clearly come to a conclusion where women have a lot of things to do. So this a ton of activities that are piled up on them creates a very, very unequal situation for them totally. So what really happens? You have gender inequality. That is disparities between individuals due to gender. It has been defined variously, okay, many, many ways. So Amartya Sen says that gender inequality is not one homogeneous phenomenon. It's not just one problem, but it is a compounded problem. It's a compounded things with various facets interlinked. So what happens? So he says, you have mortality inequality, natality inequality, basic facility inequality, for instance, unequal access to schooling for girls, special opportunity inequality, such as unequal access to higher education, professional training, professional inequality, inequality in terms of ownership of assets, in household division of labor. Yeah, the man does nothing other than tending to his office tasks, and the women are running around doing things all the time, isn't it? So typically this work from home situation has blown it up beyond proportion. I mean, lots of women folk will cry buckets about what's happening. So gender inequality also exists in the workforce. For example, you have wage gap between men and women, and men are considered for higher promotions and things like that. Yeah. So if a woman legitimately starts after finishing her work at 6:30, starts home, she is still ridiculed because she's not staying up until 9. So there's a lot of inequality that women face in the workforce also. So where does the inequality manifest? Right? If you will think clearly, very, very clearly, inequality, gender inequality manifests in the head, because that is where the first seed of inequality starts in the head. Technically, in the economy, where does it typically come to is the social, and there are 3 levels, right? So there's a diagram I will show you. The first level is where you have the social and family institutions, where all these gendered norms, everything, socialization, everything comes into this bucket. And that's the most critical part. After that, you have the women's income earning ability, typically access to education, access to ownership of assets, so on and so forth. These 2 things typically move on to the economic outcomes. So this is how the link moves on. What you consider as simple things, yeah. So some party keeps saying something at home, saying this is what you should do, this is what you should not do. No, it has a huge bearing on the way women look at themselves, on the way society looks at women, right? So you have the social and family institutions playing a tremendous part. which cannot be ignored. And looking, if you are going to be taking off this and only talking about economic outcomes and only saying that women are not working, they are not given this, that, things are not going to work. The root of the problem is this. That has to be corrected. And that correction is not going to happen in one day. It's going to happen in over decades, over many centuries. So social and family institutions, you have gendered social norms, cultural, ethnic, religious norms. So what is a norm? A norm is an unsaid something that people have to follow. So your reproductive responsibilities are unpaid family work, male dominance and authority in the home place and in the work. So this is one thing that the woman has to battle at every single point. A woman, typically a female person, battles this not only after being born, but even before. That's the very, very unfortunate thing we have to be talking about. Yeah, right? So even before a woman is born, so there is even a question, should this creature even come into the world or not? Or can I do away with it even before birth, right? So I don't think men go through as much as we do, right? So these are the things that a woman battles in the first place. The next one is, even if economic outcomes have to happen, there is something called an ability. The ability doesn't come from air, from thin air. You have to provide her access to education, access to technology. You have to empower her in the right way such that she is going to be able to be productive. Yeah. So what are they? They are low access to resources such as land, credit, technology, all these things put together. Low access to education and health services and business services. So, and weakened bargaining power. So, because when these things are not there, she is unable to strike a conversation at all. And who is willing for a conversation in the first place? Yeah. So these are the problems that affect the woman's income earning ability. Next, come on to the actual things that you can see, feel in the economy. So labor market participation today, roughly the average Indian women's labor market participation is 27%. So only 1 in 4 women are working and doing something productive in the organized sector. Yeah. So I'm not talking about women who are doing their, their churidar business or any other business at home in their free time. No, those guys come under unorganized unless they're planning to make it big or they've registered or whatever. I'm not talking about them. So educated women, how many of them are actually able to participate in the workforce? The statistics is around 27.6% or something, abysmally low for a country of India's stature. So one is labor market participation. The next one is conditions of work and quality of employment, job segregation, occupational stereotypes. Yeah. So it's a science engineering job. No, men are better at it. Men are better at math and science, and women are better at literature. Women are better at languages. Who tells you this? And women are bad drivers, shoddy drivers. Men are expert drivers. So these things come in all the time, isn't it? So these are the things that we have to be battling. So certain sectors are more suited for men than, of course, a very small percentage definitely falls into this, but they have blown this percentage out of proportion, isn't it? So that's one. Next is glass ceiling. So which means that there is an invisible glass ceiling. Women go up, climb up the corporate ladder till there, and beyond that, it's impossible to shatter the glass ceiling and go up. So few successful examples are Indra Nooyi, who've held top positions world over. So again, wage inequality. Just because it's a lady, I can pay her a lot lesser. Yeah. And she will be quiet because she doesn't have a choice. She'll have to come back to me anyway. So now do you see how gender inequality, which has its root in the social institutions, affects in women's access to education, healthcare, and every other ways in which she can empower herself. And then eventually it snowballs and it becomes a really huge economic problem, right? So that's how this is linked. Now, we can go and see the gender inequality index. So how do you measure? There has to be a way of measuring, isn't it? Otherwise, it remains plain rhetoric. Yeah, it's just something that I say and walk away. So it is measured, yes. So the gender inequality index is an index for measurement of gender disparity. The UNDP collects this statistic. You can go over to the UNDP website and you will see that India, okay, I will also tell you there are 3 dimensions that are used to measure this. One is reproductive health, empowerment, and labor market participation. So what does the GII actually say? It is a percentage that indicates percentage of potential human development lost. Okay, so what is lost on account of gender inequality? So if there is something that we have, so if the index is talking about 70.74, you're going to be talking about 74% loss. 74% we have achieved delay. So it's the other way, right? So here the GII stood at for 2010, it stood at 0.59. So which is 60% loss gone right there. The potential as a country, with our natural resources, with our human capital, with everything, with our training and development, everything, where we will have reached is 60% lost, totally eroded on account of gender inequality. Now tell me, are we talking about any trivial problem here? No, it's a huge problem that as a society, as an economy, we are facing. Again, but there seems to be some improvement. From 0.59, it came up to 0.53 in 2015. Yeah, so which means there was some amount of improvement. So 53% loss from 59, 60% loss. The loss reduced. So in that sense, there is some improvement. And now for 2019, we are at 0.501. So typically 50% loss. So if we were to be able to correct this situation, we would be twice as better. Our entire society would flourish and we would be twice as better. So that is the power of gender equality. Yeah. So here there are few, we will move on to certain statistics that I will want to show you. So basically, these are the statistics: average years of schooling, literacy rates, and the amount of students that take to professional education, and why people, women, girl children are discontinuing, why they never enrolled in the first place, what is the general level of literacy. So again, one important thing is violence against women. So these are certain things that we will be quickly, very, very quickly, we will be seeing. So here you have education-related gender-based differences in India. So gender inequality is a direct consequence of underinvestment in female education. Why? Because we have already relegated her to the home, to the kitchen, isn't it? So that's a problem. So here this inhibits her ability to control her fertility, excludes women from participation in the job market, and reduces bargaining power of women within households and also at work. So totally, if she has to come out, she has to be empowered. So education is one of the first things that can help her empower herself. So on the other hand, better gender equality brings about better children's well-being. It's not only you educate a child, you educate a girl child, you will educate an entire family. That's what is said, right? So this makes future labor force more productive. And if a lady is educated, she will bring the roof down and ensure that her next generation is educated. So that is the power of educating a single girl child. So improves economic well-being of the entire nation at the long run. So if you will see, these are statistics are slightly old, but nothing major earth-shattering would have happened in the past 3-4 years, isn't it? So pretty much it will be on the same level, or maybe a little this way and that way. So this data from UNDP shows that women, roughly the amount of the number of mean years of schooling. The good news is that around a certain, around 2012, the number of years a female spends in school is greater than men. So we are slowly and very, very slowly catching up. So this is this one. So this saw a reversal in 2012. Presently, the average number of years a female spends in school is more than a male person. So this is one. So gender distribution of students in both general and technical and professional courses. So this is an important issue here. So you have up to class 10. So the male is given by blue and women is orange. Okay, so again, there's some stereotype here also, right? So humanities is pretty much at par. Look at the sciences. Yeah, look at the sciences and look at the commerce, which basically is technical and which is basically math oriented. So we are, reassuring, reiterating our belief system, in a way, our norm that men are better at science, isn't it? So look at the number of, the bar graph for number of men who are with sciences. It's much high, right? So here, gender distribution in both general and technical or professional courses. Again, this is from the NSSO. So all original statistics. In medicine, fortunately, the number of women are high. Engineering, women are abysmally low. Law, women are low. Management, again, men are high. IT or computer courses, men are high. Any vocational training, the biggest chunk goes to men. And here you're talking about any other things, pretty much at par, I would say. So chartered accountancy, agriculture, general education, any other UG or anything else, that's pretty much at par. Yeah. So this biggest difference that you can talk about is from vocational courses. Vocational courses typically lead you to quick employment and quick earning opportunities, where women participate in very low numbers. And here in engineering also, because it's considered a man's bastion, women are not entering too much. So now the dropouts. Again, if you will see the dropout in rural areas here, and so in 5 to 15, the women are high. Again, in the next 16 to 24 bracket, the men are high. Oh God, there is some amount of mixed evidence here. Again, dropouts here, there is a difference. In urban areas, women are dropping out more, because if they, it's easy to get employment as, these tailoring workers or anybody. So it's easy at a certain age to get into some kind of employment if you're in the urban areas. So this is one. So what is the reason for dropping out of education? So in rural areas, the biggest reason is that men are engaging in economic activities. So instead of sitting in a school, so if these guys are going to go and do some work here and there, then it's going to be easy for them. Women have to engage in domestic activities. There is no choice, and that remains the biggest reason for them. For male, unsurprisingly, not interested in education is yet another important reason out here. So in urban areas, you will see that the same trend continues everywhere. Men engaged in economic activities, so which means these guys are featuring in the GDP, and women are doing domestic activities. Their work doesn't get counted at all everywhere, right? So the trend goes on all the way, rural plus urban also. So this is the reason for dropping out of education. Next one is, you will see that reasons for never enrollment. Again, not interested in education, financial constraints. For women, you will see that engaged in domestic activities is an important thing. If you will see, rural male, and there was yet another reason that was mentioned here also. In the document, that lack of toilets for women in urban areas was yet another feature why women are not sent to school. Yeah, so that's also another problem. So if you look at computer literacy also, the divide between male and female definitely exists, but the divide is lower in urban areas than in rural areas. So if you will look into the statistic, maybe I will pass this PDF on to people, so then you can always take a look at it. So now employment related statistics, percentage of females who attend to domestic duties as a percentage of all males. Yeah, so everywhere it is going to be extremely high for women. So it is around 46.1 urban women have to engage in domestic duties. So here we have employment workforce, joining the workforce. You will see that women are around, in 2015, the data was around 27%, which is very, very low. So of all women, people joining the organized workforce, female labor force participation is very, very low. Yeah. So why this is happening? We have seen a ton of reasons, isn't it? So here, this is something that compares with several countries. India is number 4 here from bottom. Yeah, we are coming from bottom. So before us or below us is only Morocco, Pakistan, and Tunisia. So every other country, all our neighbors, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and most of our neighbors, are much better. So here, this is where we are. So this is just a comparison of a few developing nations, how they are doing, and so on and so forth. The next one is women in parliament. So just about 12% of women are parliamentarians in India. The world statistic is at about 24%, even that is very low. So, but in India, it is just about 12.2 or 12.9%, very, very low again. So this is an important, very, very important issue that we have to touch upon. So women, they are objectified, and therefore there is always an issue, there's a problem. So the crimes against women, brutal crimes that happen in every corner of the country, has always been happening. It's not new now or in the last 4 years or 8 years or 10 years. It has always been happening. Probably it is coming to the forefront a little more these days. That's how you have to look at it. And a very unfortunate thing, if you will look into this, is that this gray portion, right? A real gray area in every sense, in color, and also gray area on account of the nature. It is 37%, the largest chunk here. And who are the perpetrators of the crime there? Husband and relatives. So stranger danger is basically not so much. Here, people who are known to the girl, the husband and relatives, are causing all the trouble. And this is taken from the police records. Yeah. So here we are talking, this number that we are talking about, 7 crore, I mean, whatever, so many lakhs, right? 73,26,099 crimes, officially recorded crimes, is a tip of the iceberg, because the majority of the crimes go unreported. Definitely they don't go reported at all. Who will step out? It's a shame, isn't it, that you go out and you report a crime against you. So reported crimes, which is only just about 10% of the crimes are reported. Please understand that. And even in that, you're talking about 37% of the crimes are done against women by husband and her relatives. Very, very sad state. So this, just give me a second. So what is the need of the hour here? So we have to get together as one unit. Sensitization has to start right from the college level, from the school level, and from the college level. So therefore, as students of economics, we have to have more gendered approaches to economic theory. Gender has to come into the mainstream. So public policy debates have to center around gender. So if you are taking up projects, so we have to have a little more focus on gender. That's the primary crux here. And if you're doing any projects in your economics, or as a part of your dissertation, as a part of your coursework or anything, few should consider, definitely, it's a humble request that you consider gender, gender economics as one portion. So what are the things that you can think about? So I just want to throw you some ideas on what you can think about. Gender distribution of time use, paid and unpaid work. Yeah, general look around 10 households will give you phenomenal statistics about where we are. So it can be a very, very micro level study. You don't need to do a study all over Tamil Nadu or India, nothing. Just take up something bite-sized. So that will give you tremendous amount of details. So gender stratification in education and labor market, social reproduction, care provision, global care chains, migration. In today's COVID crisis, migration, it has hit women very, very badly, isn't it? So the same problem affects women in a much more greater magnitude. So that is something you can study. So again, gender differences in behavioral aspects, gender norms, cultural values. So there are tons and tons of things which you can think about. And I've just added a few of these things here in the slide. So if you have to conclude here, so one thing, this is given by Professor Kofi Annan, the former Secretary General of United Nations. He says, gender equality is more than a goal in itself. He says it's not at all a goal. It's right. As a goal, it's good, but that's not all. It is a precondition for meeting the challenges of reducing poverty, promoting sustainable development, and providing good governance. So if you have to have decent, solid societies, good, culturally oriented, solid societies that have all these traits, gender equality becomes a precondition. So without that, no society takes off. Without 50% of a society, on an average 50% are women, isn't it? So without this part being attended to, you just cannot develop economically. Yeah. So that will bring me to the end of my presentation. So I hope there was some takeaway from this. I will stop presenting.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And this webinar was really very much useful, I hope. And thank you for actually majorly pointing out the differences between gender and sex, and then evidences showing the gender differences in education, workplaces, and even in GDP calculations and all. So thank you so much. So I call Akshaya to give vote of thanks.
On behalf of the Economics Department and the staffs, I extend a very hearty vote of thanks to the Honorable Delegate who blessed us with their presence and took out valuable time of your busy schedule. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for Dr. Shobana Karthikeyan for her work. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.